Hey there, I'm Jackie Ferris. This week on the 302, we are at the Biggs Museum of American Art, checking out the exhibit Horses and Other Creatures. We have a sit down with artist Rebecca Rohrabacher to talk about her love for all of God's creatures. That and much, much more straight ahead. Welcome to the Biggs Museum of American Art, where we're checking out horses and other creatures, and this is going to be so much fun for me. I'm joined now by the artist Rebecca Rohrabacher to talk a little bit about all of these creations. Rebecca, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, when you walk into this exhibit, one of my favorites are the two horses that just kind of like boom right out at you. Talk to me a little bit about where your love of horses came from.
When I was 3.5, my older sister, she was 12 years older than me, she took me to a riding stable, which they had lots of them in those days. She worked there part-time, and she took me, and I think she put me on a pony and led me around, but I fell in love with the whole package, with watching the horses out in the field, with going into the barn and hearing them munching on their feed and moving around, and the smell of leather and the smell of the grain and everything. I just fell in love with it as a 3.5-year-old. And when I went home, I asked my mother for pencil and paper. I had never drawn, I had never used a pencil and paper before, and just tried to draw the horses, because if I knew I couldn't own one at 3.5. I was very cognizant of that. But if I could draw them, then I could own them.
There's something very special about horse people and their relationship with horses. And when you look at your paintings, you really see that you understand and have a great affection for them. So from what happens after you start drawing them, when did you say to yourself, this is what I'm going to do with my life?
It never occurred to me that I would not be drawing horses for the rest of my life. I did get to go to, I had a friend invite me to join her for a summer class she was taking at an art school outside of Silver Spring, Maryland. And she took me, and I attended her drawing class with a life model. And I just remember it was 3 hours of gesture drawing, you know, very quick changes and everything, and I'd never been exposed to that. But by the time that class ended, I was like, oh, this is what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life.
So let's talk about, you know, the choice of horses as the main theme of this show. There are other creatures, but talk to me about, you know, wanting to get that love on canvas. I mean, is there a process that you do?
It is simply a concept will come in my head. Sometimes I'm staring at the blank paper or the canvas for days, and then one day I get up and I listen to a lot of music, and one day I'll get up and I'll start to make a mark, and it will all flow out. It comes out that way. I don't do preliminary drawings of the work. I just work out of my head for the horses for the most part, except I draw from life every day. So we would go to horse events such as Point to Point, and I would draw while they were galloping by. And I don't use photographs. So therefore, my goal with a horse is to catch personality and movement in
That's
my
amazing.
painting.
That takes quite a technique, and you certainly, looking at the pieces, you certainly have that. So what do you listen to whenever you, I always ask the artists what they listen to, so.
Santana, Bob Dylan, you know, something to pick me up.
Yeah.
And motivate my body to do something, to move a bit more, because the work's large, you know, it's a physical process.
How do you do this? Do you have to use a ladder, or?
At times I have to use a ladder, but for the most part the paintings go up, the paintings come down, and I'll put a wet medium on them, and then I have to wait for them to dry enough to go back up. So they go up and down a great many times.
So when we're looking at some of the pieces in the show, my favorite, the two horses, as you first come in, are these horses that you are familiar with, or are these just horses that you remember or you imagine in your head?
I remember them from another time. That's two horses with blue and silver. They were having a discussion at the gate at feed time. So they were tossing about and mouths were open, but nobody was hurting anybody. They weren't fighting. They were just, I want to go first. No, I want to go first. So.
Absolutely. And you mentioned, the horses and watching them move and everything. Is motion a big part of, not only capturing their expression, but their stance and what they're doing? I mean, I know that there's another painting up against the wall that's just beautiful. It's horses running.
Very much so. Even if I've done a horse that is standing still, I try to make it feel as if it's about to move or it just stopped, and to give it an expression in its eyes. And that just comes from drawing so many of them over the years.
Do you have a favorite horse in your life or in your work?
Oh, I've had, well, I actually don't have any representation here of the horses that I have owned. It gets so emotional for me when I try to paint them. I've had wonderful horses.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. But it's not just horses, right? It's,
It's animals, yes.
Animals in general. And when we come back, we're going to go in and take a look at some of the other beautiful paintings that Rebecca has done. So stay with us.
Hello, I am Justice Bennett, and I love rediscovering history on the 302.
Welcome back. We are at the Biggs Museum of American Art, and we are talking about horses and other creatures. We're joined by Rebecca Rawbacher, who is the artist. Rebecca, I was blown away when I walked in, and now I'm just breathless. These giraffes are amazing.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about, if you're looking at it from home, you're not going to be able to see this, but we're going to give you some close-up video of it. But this is layers.
Many layers.
Yeah.
Yes.
So talk to me first of all. Where did you get the inspiration? Where were these giraffes from?
The giraffes are from. Our daughter lives out in California, so a giraffe is one of them is from the LA Zoo. One of them is from Animal Kingdom down in Florida, and I'm not sure where the other one was, probably a composite of both of them.
Sure.
But yes.
So let's talk about the process. It's not just, a sketch and then paint. It's layers of things.
Yes. Well, I have the drawing that I do of the giraffe, which I lay out with some charcoal or pencil or even watercolor. And then the background is just as important. So you may have the giraffe as a subject, but the background has to hold its own as an element in the painting. And with these particular giraffes, I did a lot of collage work. I would in the first giraffe, I tore a lot of black paper, then went back and painted over it. And then in the next two giraffes, I actually made a lot of monoprints in jungle sort of forest colors, greens and beige and golds and what have you. And then I tore them, so they created almost a leaf-like effect behind the giraffe.
It really is beautiful. I love the blue detail on the giraffe spots. Really makes it just kind of pop.
I do tend to interject non-traditional colors on a more traditional animal. So.
I think that makes it, more interesting, and it gives the eye something else to think about and to absorb. You know what I mean?
Yes, thank you.
Draws you in. So, what are you thinking about whenever you are doing a piece like these giraffes?
Well, as I spoke about the horses, there's a character in each of them, and that's what caught me and motivated me to do the drawing to begin with, is how the giraffe looked at me, that it continued to look at me, or that it was giving me the side eye like the giraffe in the middle, but wouldn't take its eye off of me, and that entices me to want to record them and to interject some of their personality into the paintings that I'm doing.
Well, you certainly have accomplished that. Let's talk a little bit about the lion. That is just, it's so texturized.
It's a oil stick, gold oil stick on the lion, metallic gold oil stick, heavy, heavy layers. And then I went in with some other colors. You can see injections of a teal or a blue in there and some pinks. And he just had a look in his eye. And he took a long time. There's a whole nother painting under there that I didn't think did service to him.
Yeah.
And then I went after him with the gold.
So you often circle around. You'll do something, it'll be completed, you'll think about it, and then return to it to say, okay, well, you know, Mr. Lion here, he's got more that he wants to say, right?
Absolutely. In particular with this lion, he was almost totally finished as a painting. And my husband, Chris, came up to the studio and said he had to run an errand. I said, great. When he came back from his errand, this was what was there. It was a completely new lion, and you know, he was, what did you do? But in the end, he was very happy with my result, as I was.
How long do you think it takes you to do something like this? For the, I guess the first cycle.
It can take anywhere from a day to years. There's some drawings I will make that I feel like they're ahead of me. They're telling me something. I see that they're legitimate, but I can't come up with the answers to take them to a full painting, a full resolved painting, and I'll dig them out years later. There's even some pieces here that were started many years ago, and then I pulled them out and finished them. And they were not finished before, but I finished them recently in '24.
And you're always drawing?
Always, always. We go out every morning, and we have a couple key places we go to look at birds or to, I look on Rehoboth Bay and look for, in the wintertime, it's buffleheads and mergansers, and the buffleheads are pretty comedic. Occasionally you have a bald eagle show up, which means we don't see any ducks for a few days. And then I'll go to the Indian River Inlet, south side, and I'll throw bread to the grackles, which are the funniest birds. They're so comedic in their gestures, in their action, in their attitude.
One of my favorites, and they're on display in a series of smaller pieces.
The Salon Wall.
Yeah, the Salon Wall is the otter.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What a cutie pie.
He is cute. Otters are a lot of fun to watch, and I've actually seen otters down in Rehoboth Bay, not recently, but whenever I go to the LA Zoo, when we go to visit my daughter, they have a fabulous otter exhibit, and the otters have all this glass, and they'll literally come up to you and put their paddle feet up against the glass and look at you like, do you have any fish?
You can't be sad around an otter,
No.
that's for sure,
No.
that's for sure. Finally, I wanted to ask you about the zebra with the tail. Where'd you get that idea from?
That zebra, now that one I did a drawing originally, and that was at the San Diego Zoo, and he was in all by himself, in with all the elans on a little bit of a hill, and he was extremely unhappy, and a little boy next to me said, which I found, I could tell he was mad. The zebra was very angry and off by himself, and a little boy next to me said, oh, the poor zebra. Why is he all by himself? I said, because he was probably very bad to the other zebras. And that was a way to punish him, was to pull him out and put him in with the elans.
Absolutely. Now, there is so much more that we want to explore and learn at your process and what you think, and just see where your mind takes us on canvas. When we return, we're going to talk about mythology. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Scott Lackman with the Lewis Historical Society. I'm a volunteer here. We love our history, but we love sharing our spooky side of the history, especially on the 302.
Welcome back. We're talking about horses and other creatures with artist Rebecca Rawbacher, and we are now looking at some figures in mythology.
Greek mythology, yes.
Yeah, so tell me, obviously we have a Minotaur behind us, but not
Yes.
a lot of people know what is that story?
That story is King Minos, M-I-N-O-S, asked the god Poseidon to give him a magnificent bull for him to sacrifice in Poseidon's honor, and so he could show that he had an in with the god. And Poseidon sent him this gorgeous white bull, and King Minos kind of looked at the bull and said, you know, that's a pretty nice bull. I think I'll sacrifice one of my bulls and keep this one for myself. Well, it didn't make Poseidon very happy, so you may want to edit this, but Poseidon sent Euro, who is today known as Cupid, to shoot an arrow or make his wife, Queen, I can't pronounce his name, Persephone?
Pasethary or something
Persephone.
like
No, I don't think there's an R, but anyway, she fell in love with the bull and had a very exciting night, and eventually gave birth to the Minotaur. And she and King Minos were so disgusted by the child that they put it into a labyrinth, and it lived there, and they threw food to it. So he grew up to be quite a monster.
Yeah, that's such a sad story, honestly. But you look at his face, and you have two pieces here. One is really sad, and the other one is just kind of matter of fact.
He's pretty, I think he's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
And in Picasso's representation of the Minotaur, he focused on the power and the sexual tension and the monster. And to me, this story was very sad. That doesn't make him less of a monster. He wasn't exactly a very nice fellow, but he had reasons for being so horrible.
When you look at the pieces, beyond the expression, just the texture. Now, is that another use of? I mean, what did you use just for the fur is really? It looks like you could.
Yeah, that's oil paint, but it's heavily applied to try and give you the idea of the depth of fur on the creature.
Really is really good. And what is it about bulls and Greek mythology? Because you have another piece with a white bull that involves Zeus.
Yes, yes. Zeus was, he was the big god and in charge of everything, but his wife Hera was very possessive and very jealous. So he was a bit of a wanderer, and so when he would find some poor young lady that he would like to be with, he would change himself into different creatures. And in the case of the Europa piece, he changed himself into a beautiful white bull and enticed her to climb on his back, and then he flew away. Although I think Hera would have suspected a flying white bull to be a costume.
You can see her maidens in the background. Hey, where you going? Yeah.
Oh yes, her handmaidens, Europa's handmaidens, are in the background, very upset that she's flying off to Crete on the back of a magical white bull.
Yeah, and the things that the gods do to the humans, I mean, specifically, we talk about the bulls, but what about Medusa? I mean, come on.
Yeah, well, Medusa was an absolutely stunning, beautiful young woman. And again, that nasty guy, Poseidon, Medusa was worshiping Athena in one of Athena's temples, and he came in and he abused her. Well, Athena can't punish Poseidon, so she punished Medusa by making her a Gorgon, but adding, all Gorgons didn't have vipers for hair. She gave her vipers, and just, it wasn't Medusa's fault, but since Athena couldn't punish Poseidon, she punished Medusa.
So where did your love for Greek mythology come from, you think?
Well, I've always enjoyed it from the time, I first read about the Odyssey. And then I would track different things. In the Odyssey, Odysseus comes back after 20 years, and the only living creature that recognizes him is his dog Argos, who, once he sees his master, he dies, but then Argos' son helps Odysseus get rid of all these men that were in his domain, trying to woo his wife Penelope.
I love that story where every night she says, "When I get done weaving,"
right?
And every night she unravels.
Oh, very good. Very good.
I love the Odyssey and the Iliad.
Yes.
So your work is beautiful. Again, I can't say it enough. If someone wants to see the show, it runs through
July 7th.
Fantastic. And if they want to check you out online, maybe pick up a piece or two.
It's at raubacher.com is my website, and that's R-A-U-B as in boy, A-C-H-E-R.
Excellent. Well, Rebecca, it was a pleasure chatting with you.
Oh, thank you.
Excellent. And we look forward to seeing what you do next.
Okay, me too.
We'll be right back. I'm pretty sure you're probably digging this show, so if you come down, make sure you snap a few pictures and share it with us on Facebook. Now, here are a few other things you can check out in the area. For more information on this exhibit or any of the exhibits here at the Biggs Museum, visit thebiggsmuseum.org. Make sure you follow us on Facebook to get behind-the-scenes content you're just not going to get anywhere else. That'll do it for this week's episode of the show. We're going to leave you now with some beauty shots from First State Heritage Park. Until next time, I'm Jackie Ferris. Tell them you saw it on the 302.